Good morning, everybody. I'm coming at you with another video. Today, I want to talk a little about managing finances with a spouse. If you are married, if you have a significant other that you share financial responsibilities with, maybe another individual you share financial responsibilities with, you know that managing finances with someone else can be a struggle. There are a lot of nuances to it. There's a lot of nuance to it. Me personally, just a little about me. Got married at an early age. Been married for about almost 10 years now. Have 2 children. And managing, and we share all of our finances, joint bank accounts, the whole deal. And managing finances has certainly been I wouldn't say a hot topic, but it's definitely been something we've had to learn how to do. Are still learning how to do. We're not perfect at it, but I wanted to record this video just to talk to y'all about managing finances because I stumbled upon an app that I'll talk to you about. I'm not affiliated. I don't get a kickback from them whatsoever, but I've just found it to be a helpful app that we started using a couple weeks ago. So I'll talk about that at the end of the video. But when you have two people that have two different desires, that have two different histories, that may make different amounts of money, like I said, may have different aspirations, have different things that make them tick. Managing finances can be a struggle, as with anything else, right? As with raising kids, as with where you want to live or what careers you want to pursue. These are things you're going to have to learn to navigate. And because finances and personal finance are so important to a household, to a relationship, to individuals, because it is how we achieve what we want to achieve. It's how we put food on the table. It's how we, it is embedded in so many parts of our lives. It's something to pay attention to and to put work into, in my opinion. So the first thing that I would say about managing finances with a significant other or with a spouse is you need to have deep conversations and meaningful conversations about what aspirations the other person has, and you need to clearly explain what aspirations you have. If you all can get on the same page with what you desire and you talk about those things, you voice those things, that is going to make managing your finances on a daily basis a lot easier. At the end of the day, we all are shooting for something. And let me give you an example. If your spouse has a dream of, I don't know, living in a certain type of home, right? Maybe they okay, so we'll take it a little more personal. I have a desire at some point to live on some land, right? And so if my significant other doesn't have a desire for that, when I am harping on being strict with the finances, saving money, not going out to eat on the weekends, and not spending money that we shouldn't spend because I'm saving for this land that I want to purchase, there can be some friction there. Because if your spouse doesn't have that same desire, say your spouse has a desire that they want to enjoy the weekends, like that's their big thing, they're very social, they want to invest in experiences. Well, you not wanting to spend on experiences because you're saving up for your land, and your spouse not wanting to save up for your land because they want to spend money on experiences, is going to create friction there. There's going to probably be fights about it, discussions, passionate discussions. So being able to voice what you want will help you identify maybe why there is friction in your relationship. It's super important. Finding goals that you can pursue for each other and together. What I mean by that, creating space and creating finances to pursue in this example that I'm talking about, to be able to pursue the purchase of the land is important because it's important to one side of the relationship. Also, allocating money and creating room for experiences is important. You need to do it because the other person in your relationship finds it important. If you're only pursuing one person's goal, there's going to be bitterness and resentment that creeps into the relationship, right? So you need to hear the other person. You need to create space for those goals to be met. There also needs to be compromise, okay? So if you have a dream of, I don't know, living in another country and, living out of your car, or something that may be quite radical, that maybe not, might not be very practical for your significant other, for your life situation, you might need to put a pause on those things, or figure out a way to fulfill that desire in another way, right? Because your other person in your life, your significant other, your spouse, that might not fit well with them at all, right? And that's something that a lot of people don't want to talk about. Everything that I hear these days seems to be, live your life and live your truth and all of this stuff, and don't let anybody else tell you what to do type of deal. And in relationships, that just doesn't work very well. And it might be why us in Western society, why we don't do relationships very well anymore, in my opinion. You have to be able to compromise. You have to be able to change some of your desires and some of your lifestyle for your significant other. That's how relationships work. When you have two people in a relationship, and again, I'm no relationship expert, but in my experience, if you have two people that are willing to compromise for the other person, the relationship will last. If you have two people that are only in it for what they want and they're unwilling to hear anything else, that relationship will not function well, right? So you need to voice your goals. You need to create space for each other's goals. You also need to be willing to compromise, because not everything is going to go your way when you have somebody else in your relationship. You need to have transparency. And I'm just kind of coming up with these off the top of my head, but you need to have transparency with the funds, right? You should be able to see what each other are doing and be able to comment on those things as well. There needs to be accountability on both ends. If there's only accountability on one side of the fence, it's not going to work out. There's going to be bitterness, and there's going to be resentment, and there's going to be friction, right? But if both of y'all are being accountable to each other, things tend to go a little better. And what do I mean by accountability? Well, you should have a budget. I just talked about this in my last video I uploaded. You should have a budget. You should have goals. You should know what your goals are for what's going into investing, what's going into saving, where your money's being spent. And you should also have some free money that you can spend on whatever the heck you want, right? Finance is willing, okay? If you're not in a place for that, that's totally okay. But, you should try to work to get to that place. Like I've talked about in my podcast and other videos, you want to be debt-free. You want to get that emergency fund built up, that 3 to 6 months. And when you get to that point to where you have a little bit more monthly margin after you're investing, you should have some money that you can enjoy. I'm a big believer in balance. I don't think that you should only live for the future, and I don't think you should only live for the now. You should have balance. You should have all these things in place. And so then really to kind of talk about, and let me challenge you too, because I want to start doing that more. I think that you should have these conversations now if you feel like you're having issues with your finances in your marriage. You should sit down with your significant other, create a safe place for them, and talk about what your goals are, what makes you tick, what you want to achieve in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, and figure out a plan to satiate some desires on both ends and be willing to compromise. I think you should do that today. I think you should, get a nice dinner for your significant other, or take them out to coffee in the morning or something, and chat about that. So now to talk about the app that I found really helpful. It is called Honeydew, honey, and then DUE, like something is due. And what it does, it's an app that allows you, and I think there are other ones out there like this, but this app allows you to sync up your credit cards, your debit cards, your bank accounts, and link accounts, the Honeydew accounts, right? So my wife has a Honeydew account. We linked ours. We uploaded the accounts that we use and the cards that we use. So now at any time we can go to that app. We can see what the other person's doing. You can also create budgets in there and throw these dollar amounts into certain buckets, right? So if we each have, so say my wife has an entertainment budget for the month and I have an entertainment budget for the month, well, whenever I use some of my entertainment budget, I can pop that transaction right into that budget and see how much money I have left every month. You can also set buckets for investing, for saving, really anything you want. You can create as many different buckets as you please. It also gives you the ability to comment on certain transactions, right? So if you see something and you may have a question about it, you can comment on that. Your significant other will be able to see that comment and respond to it. You can also set up alerts, which I think is really cool. So say for the grocery budget, maybe you have $500 for groceries each month. Well, you can set, hey, whenever I get to 90% of that budget, I want an alert, and I want my spouse to have an alert, right? Kind of helps you be accountable, kind of an automated process to help you be accountable. So we've only been using it for about, I think it's 2 weeks. I've really enjoyed it. It's one of those things where you're going to have to start and know that it's not going to be perfect, and you're going to have to kind of iterate. You're going to have to make some additional buckets for your budget. You're going to have to, adjust those amounts, right? So maybe you think that you're only going to have $100 in spending, but for each individual per month, but you realize that's not realistic and you want to up it, or maybe you realize that's too much and you need to decrease that so you can increase your debt payoff bucket or your whatever. You're going to have to iterate, and that's kind of the phase that we're in now. There are all these transactions that I'm seeing come in, and I'm realizing, oh shoot, where do I put this one? I need to create this new bucket for this, and then I need to adjust the amount for this bucket because this new bucket's created. But all that being said, I really enjoy it. Again, I'm not sponsored by them. I get no kickbacks from them, but I think it could be a really valuable tool for people trying to manage money in a relationship. So I hope this video was helpful for you. Again, my challenge for you, if you are finding that friction in your relationship with the finances, to sit down, talk about goals, talk about what makes you tick, be willing to compromise and make space for each other's desires. I think you will be able to see some traction there in your life. So we will talk very soon. Thanks for tuning in.